Hey everyone, I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show, the place to be for practical spirituality for daily living. Today I'm joined by Heather O'Neill, and we're going to talk about the law of attraction and how to use it to attract more of what you want into your life. Hi, Heather, welcome to the show.
Hi, Angela. Thank you so much for having me. This is very exciting.
Can you tell us, from your perspective, what is the law of attraction?
What I love about the law of attraction is that it's something that operates in our lives on a daily basis all the time, whether we recognize it or label it. And I think once we do recognize it as a kind of a mechanism, we can really learn to kind of harness that and use that to really, really be, the co-creators of our lives. And so the way I would describe the law of attraction is basically that like attracts like. And so from the perspective of us meaning people, being energetic beings, we literally, our energy literally is emitted from our body. Energy moves, energy has a vibration to it. And so as that energy kind of moves forth from us out into our experience in life, we find that coming back to us are things that kind of match where that kind of energetic vibration is, so that kind of, the old saying, like, what goes around comes around kind of thing. Or my favorite one is where your attention goes, your energy flows.
Mm.
And so, that it's from that perspective that we can start seeing kind of the things that are coming back to us as they might be matching kind of what's going on inside with us from kind of an emotional, energetic standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I imagine that what you see in your external world um, is a reflection then of your energy. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, absolutely. In your external world, in your relationships. I mean, it's, to me, it's something that for somebody just kind of being introduced to the law of attraction to, not worry about necessarily kind of, blanketing that in every aspect of your life, but just kind of really simply breaking it down in terms of, like, what you're going to focus on in your life is what's going to expand in your life. Because, from say the standpoint of of being grateful and living in gratitude, when we're kind of in that energetic space, it seems that life delivers us back even more reasons for us to be grateful. And you know how sometimes, this is always kind of an example I use when someone's like, oh my gosh, if that person didn't have bad luck, they would have no luck at all. Like,
Yeah.
some people, kind of go through hardship or go through things, and then their energy kind of gets stuck in a vibration of almost expecting bad things to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
and it does. So it's like, the things that you're thinking about are influencing how you feel, and then you're really attracting more of what you're feeling in by way of people, by way of experiences, by way of things happening in your life. And I know I want this, but it's not coming to me. So but how am I really feeling
Mm-hmm.
in terms of creating my energy in that way?
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a really catch-22 because if you don't have what it is you want, and say for example, let's talk about money because I know a lot of people, that's a huge thing
Hmm.
in their life. And if you don't have enough money and you have, say the bills are piling up and you are late on your credit cards and you get this, there's just that momentum of that energy and that anxiety. If you're focusing on that, then you're going to attract more of that in.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up money, because money is the best example, I
Yeah.
think, to use with the law of attraction, because it is the best way to kind of see that catch 22. Because you're absolutely right. I would say most of us want a lot of money, and
Mhm.
probably most of us don't have all the money that we would like. And
Right.
so we are really focused on, we might say, oh, but I know I want a lot of money. I know that. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. So how come I don't have it? Oh, this, law of attraction thing doesn't really work. But it's anyone saying that, my reply would be, but really, how are you feeling deep down? Because you may say that you want a lot of money, but the underlying thing with the law of attraction is really is the feeling state, and it's the essence, and it's what's really going on inside. And as much as you want, and you really do desire a lot of money, but really what's going on inside is the fear and the worry and the focus on, like you said, what if I can't pay my bills next month? Maybe something happened, and I had something happen in my house I wasn't planning on, and then I had to spend more money than I thought this month. And that's really where most people's focus is most of the time.
Mhm.
And you can't really be focused on both ends of the spectrum at the same time. So we always really kind of probe folks a little bit and say, where is your feeling state? I mean, if you're really, you want a lot of money, but you are so genuinely worried that you don't have enough, that's really where your energy is.
Let's talk about how to change that, how to shift that focus when you do have that anxiety. How can we attract more money into our life?
Well, there's a lot of great processes and things that folks can do. And, I would be remiss in doing in a talk about the law of attraction if we didn't bring up, Esther Hicks. and,
Hmm.
and for anyone that wants to delve more into it, there's wonderful books, Abraham Hicks books, that have a lot of great processes in there, especially dealing with money. But just from kind of this standpoint right now, the very first question I would ask somebody is, what would having more money bring to you? So if I said that to you, Angela, if I was like, all right, you want more money, so really, what would more money bring to you? How would that make you feel if you had more money right now? What could you pick, like one feeling, kind of the essence of how it would make you feel?
Yeah, that would be freedom.
Freedom. Beautiful. And it's true. And so those are the things that people need to explore a little bit. What would more money bring? It would bring freedom for you. It would bring freedom for me as well. It would bring security for me.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of great stuff, that we can lock into in terms of how we would feel if we had more money. So, right off the bat, that's something I would recommend to people, is to really, really get clear on what would more money bring you. Because when I say that to you, and if I say that to anybody, you can almost feel in your body when you're talking about, or you're focused on, what you don't have or not having enough money. But when I say, if I had more money, it would really bring me security. And I kind of just said that with my eyes closed, and I
Hmm.
really thought about what I was saying, and I really thought about that feeling, and it became visceral. Even I felt it like in my stomach, and I felt it in my heart center. And so that's kind of the initial key, is to really be clear on how you would feel when you have what you want, because that's something I don't think we're really used to getting in touch with.
Hmm.
It's we're all guilty of kind of really focusing a lot on lack. And I don't know if it's kind of the way of life, or it's socialization, and it's something I work a lot with clients about. Really try to spend your time focusing on what you do have, and the good things about what's in your life, because that's when you kind of get to those essence feelings. And so if you're focused on the things, the things that you want, and then you dig a little deeper and you ask yourself a question and say, well, how would I feel if I had what I want? And like, that's kind of the juice down there,
Hmm.
locking into that feeling. And that's how you kind of can deliberately use something like the law of attraction, because now you're learning how to focus on the feeling state of what having what you want would bring to you. Because so many times, we're focused on the thing that we want, and we're inevitably really realizing, well, we don't have it yet.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if we're focused on how we would feel if we did have it, that's a whole nother ball game.
Right. Yeah, and I've been myself have been working with the law of attraction for I probably at least 6 years, but I find that I still fall into that. I think I'm focusing on the having of it, but then it's easy to fall into, yeah, like you said, recognizing and seeing that it's not there, and then hanging out in that thought of, oh my gosh, I don't have it yet.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is, and I always say to folks too, it's nothing to beat yourself up about if you're finding that you're kind of focused on the lack of. We're all human, and we're all here on a journey, and that's okay. And it's never, it never gets done, and it's okay. But to me, it's about becoming a little bit more aware. It's about becoming aware of your thought processes, but even on another level, really being aware of your feeling state. And Abraham talks about the kind of your emotional guidance system,
Hmm.
and that's your inner GPS, and it really is. And it's the difference between acting on your feelings in terms of a reactive sense that I think gives delving into and working by way of our feelings kind of a bad name. So it's not about acting on our feelings in a reactive sense, but it's about really going within and noticing how you're feeling about things. And if I said to you, okay, if you're thinking about money right now, and you're thinking about what you don't have, or if I said to you, how are you feeling right now, and you said, well, I feel bad because I don't have enough of what I want. It's like, okay, that's just your inner being telling you right now you're in a state of lack,
Hmm.
and in that state you're going to attract more of the same. So let me take a step back and let me ask myself, what would getting what I want make me feel? And some people might say, like, well, if I'm feeling really really crappy, I can't just get from 0 to 60 and absolutely believe that I'm going to get this $1 million, which is what I really, really want. And I
Hmm.
say, that's fine. It's not about going from 0 to 60, but it's about, really connecting with the essence of how you would feel when you get what you want. And also just taking baby steps and asking yourself some questions, which answers, can help you kind of make steps along the way. So if it's, you're feeling like you don't have enough money, what, like, you can think of some things that might make you feel a little bit better, but well, what, this might only be temporary. I just had to pay out $500 for a new dishwasher, for example. But that's not going to happen every month, so I can make myself feel better. Oh, next month I'll be a little bit ahead. Or we can kind of train ourselves to come up with thoughts, or even writing down sentences of things that can help turn around the way we're feeling a little bit. So if you notice that you're feeling bad, and I said, well, Angela, like, you're feeling bad, you're feeling like you don't have enough money. Have there been times when you have felt in a comfortable place? And if you said, yeah, I would say, okay, there's an even another thought you can focus on. There have been times that I have been okay, and I know what that comfortable feeling is like, and I can revisit that comfortable feeling within. It doesn't. It doesn't really matter that that's not what's actually happening right in this point in time. As you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's using, to really utilize the law of attraction. It's using our imagination and using our emotional state. And it's you know the great example of Jim Carrey. He, like, wrote $1 million check to,
Yeah.
out made out to himself, long before he was famous. And he didn't have $1 million then,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
he, wrote this check, and he looked at this check, and he, I'm sure, was very connected with how it would feel if he had $1 million. And he didn't have it at the time, but he used his imagination and he used his feelings to eventually bring in what he wanted.
Yeah.
Probably has a little
Yeah.
more than $1 million right now.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're doing these techniques. You're using the tools, and you're focused on the gratitude, or focused on what it would feel like having it. When is it going to show up? I know Abraham says, everybody comes in and says, "Where's my stuff?" So, do you have the answer to the $1 million question?
I would love to have the answer to the $1 million question, but there is no one specific answer to that question.
Yeah.
But the way I would answer that question, I mean, I couldn't say, yeah, you know, focus on how great it feels to have $1 million for 1 week and 3 days, and it'll come to you.
Yeah.
But what I would say to that is, we're not focused enough on the way things come to us. We get very, very attached to the money's got to come in the form of a paycheck or a raise, or, I've got to win the lottery, or, we get very, very attached to the way our money has to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I really always recommend to people to really, as much as possible, get very, very clear on how you want to feel about having money, very clear on that, and then let go of your notion of how and when, that money has to come to you. Like, your job is to focus on the what and the why.
Mm-hmm.
The how and the when is not your job. That is the job of the universe. And it's so funny. Like, I too want a lot of money, and I went shopping. I had to go food shopping on Saturday, and I so did not want to go, but I had to get stuff for Sunday. Really didn't feel like going to the food store, so I dragged myself to the food store. And when I went shopping, as I'm going along, can I tell you, honestly, I want to say about 75% of the things that I needed were on sale.
Nice.
And I stopped and I'm like, this is so great. This is like, I didn't feel like going to the store, but here I'm coming, and I'm probably saving all this money on things had I gone another day, or had I waited. And my point is, like, we're not used to recognizing those things. And I just saved myself money. But if I'm so attached on the only way that I'm going to have a lot of money is by somebody come and slapping a $20 bill in my hand, I'm not going to notice that I just probably saved myself $10. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's really a matter of being very open to whatever ways money is going to come to us. I mean, there's times that I've had very generous people in my life at times when I was, you know, really didn't have really didn't have a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and people took me out to dinner, or I was like noticing sometimes I was like getting things for free. I had this wonderful guy read my numbers for me. He wanted to help me. He's a friend of a friend. He normally charges $100, and it was just wonderful and kind of him. And he read my numbers for me for $0. So
Mm-hmm.
these things happen in my life, and I had to say, wait a second, it's I got to detach from this, really specific idea of how my money is going to come to me, and notice that, you know, what do what's the feeling I want? Security. I want to feel happy that I can have the things I want. And I was. I
Mm-hmm.
was. It wasn't necessarily coming to me in maybe the exact, picture that I thought it would, but things can and do come to us in so many ways that it's so worthwhile to keep yourself open to all the possibility out there. It really, really is.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the biggest things that I struggled with was, being an intelligent woman, and being able to figure things out. I would focus a lot on the how. How is this going to happen? How can I make this happen? What do I need to do? And I found that when I got into that space, that would actually feed the feeling of lack,
Yeah. Yeah.
versus trusting and letting go of the how, and going about my life and allowing my intuition to kind of guide me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just said the key word there, Angela, and trust.
Mhm.
And I have a pink index card with the word trust written on it. taped up on a ledge at my desk, and I'm looking at it right now because, it's worth reminding us. We all we can very easily get caught kind of in lower vibration way of feeling all the time. We all do, and it's yeah, we've got to be able to feel our feelings and process them and let them go. But it's always good to have reminders of things for us everywhere. I'm a big fan of the sticky note reminders all over.
Yeah.
But this word trust is it's key. That you know what I know this mechanism works. I have seen the law of attraction work in my life over and over. I knew it. I knew it worked before I knew there was a name for it. Long before I became a law of attraction coach, and
Hmm.
it's there. There has to be some trust in there. Of it's not my job to figure out the how. Yes, I don't mean that. I'm going to say I want to make $80,000 this year, and I know it's going to make me feel really good and free and secure. And then I'm just going to sit back and let the universe bring it to me. I'm not going to go to work every day because I believe, I trust. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because there does have to be, some action behind, what we want. There's got to be some action along with, emotion and energy focusing that way as well. But when I'm taking the steps and I'm doing things and I'm acting in ways that can bring me the things that I want, then that's the point where I can let go a little bit and, like you said, trust my intuition and trust that things will come to me, and allow it to come, and to where I'm not breaking my back over trying to get what I want, because there is a gracious, generous universe out there that's going to help me and
Hmm.
help to deliver these things with me when I can really kind of find that ground of knowing what I want, taking the steps to get there, being really locked into that feeling, and just believing that I will get what I want, and then kind of just step into that kind of beautiful space of allowing and of letting go of how it has to come to me.
Gosh, our beliefs can really, really obstruct the flow of our abundance, or really stop the flow of anything that we're wanting to attract into our life, whether that's relationships, money, a particular type of job. Because, we get in this, we learn at some point in our life that maybe it has to be hard to get money,
Mm.
or a struggle, or you have to work a certain amount for this money to show up. And I think that unwiring those parts and shifting our belief can really impact what we're able to manifest.
Oh, I agree with you 111%.
Great number, I love it.
And I had to say my 11, but I know I absolutely agree with you. And I think, that's one of my favorite things about coaching, even. And when I let people know about coaching too, is that it's so great to have, like, kind of that outside perspective of somebody to really kind of help you uncover and pick through what some of your really kind of underlying and a lot of times limiting beliefs are. And that's certainly not to say that people can't do self-reflection and examination as well, because we absolutely can. But a lot of times we don't ask ourselves the questions that are really the catalyst to kind of do that self-exploration. But money is just another great example, and you gave some fabulous beliefs that a lot of people hold about money. And when we don't ever examine them, and we do walk around, the only way I can make a lot of money is working $80 a week, 80 hours a week, then
Hmm.
then I'm going to stand in the way of making any money for myself, unless I'm doing what I believe I need to do. Or that um, it's interesting too, because sometimes you don't even realize the attitudes you have about money until you start asking about it,
Hmm.
asking yourself, what do I believe I have to do for all this money? And a lot of these things, come from our upbringing, and or even come from, even our own perspectives, like, maybe looking at people that have an awful lot of money, and say, maybe folks that are kind of in the spiritual on the spiritual path, and then, might believe, oh, well, I don't really feel like it's very spiritual to have a lot of money. I mean, things like that, even,
Hmm.
that people are sometimes not aware of how much that is really kind of locked into their energy and their belief system. And what's going to happen then if I really believe that, and I'm on this spiritual path for the rest of my life, but I believe that it's not very spiritual for me to really make a lot of money, then I'm probably not really going to ever make a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. So I want to switch gears just for a second. What is it something that you do in your personal life that in your daily spiritual practice that has really impacted your ability to manifest and has changed your life?
Well, um, I have to say the two things that truly, and there's probably a lot of people that would answer this question this way, but these are really the two practices that have really, really changed my life. Um, are cultivating a daily gratitude practice, and really, before getting out of bed in the morning, going over in my head the things that I am truly grateful for, and not just leaving them in my head, but letting that gratitude seep through, all the way down into my belly,
Hmm.
of really being grateful for all that I have. And I do that before I get out of bed every day. And I can honestly tell you that I spent many years waking up with anxiety, and that just, it kind of went from there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it still happens. I'll have like some kind of dream that makes me anxious, and I wake up and my first thoughts are, what am I grateful for? And it does so much to change my energy.
Yeah.
And I believe that because I am the majority of the time really focused on what I'm grateful about, even if things aren't going right, and even if I'm feeling like right now I don't have all the money I would like, but you know what? I am so grateful that I have a roof over my head, and all my appliances are working, and I mean, there's so much to be grateful for, and I really believe that has added greatly to me manifesting more reasons to be grateful. And it's like that, what's the saying when somebody gives you a gift and you're so excited and you love it, and then just makes them anxious to give you more gifts. And I think it works that way with the universe.
Hmm.
And the other thing that has truly honestly changed my life is meditation. And I just believe in it so wholeheartedly. I believe that really just about anybody that truly wants to learn to meditate can. I It has changed my life so much that I teach an intro to meditation class a couple times a year, just because I just want to share this practice with people. I really do. And it's just, meditation for me has enabled me to really become more of the observer of the way I'm thinking.
Hmm.
And that serves very well, if you're living a life of conscious creation of, okay, so where are my thoughts? And also, it just provides a nice, beautiful, quiet space where, for me, I just really can kind of feel my connection to spirit, and I can be grateful, and I, I can just kind of be in touch with my center, with the center of my being, with me, with the essence of me. And we don't do that enough in our lives, when we're going in our busy days and our busy lives, and we're taking care of our kids and our friends and our families and our pets and everybody. And I think meditation is a really not very difficult way to really take care of ourselves, because at the end of the day, and in the long run, if we are not taking care of ourselves, and we're not in operating from our best place, we're not really doing the best service for others that we can.
Hmm.
And meditation can be used in so many ways. And you and I, when we did the what did we do, the 40-day prosperity
Oh, yeah.
meditation course, I mean, that was huge and life changing in terms of manifesting. I recommend that to people all the time. With the with James Randolph Price, was that the book?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and that was, just another fabulous way of using meditation to be in touch with. the abundance within and then creating it without.
What's a really practical short tip that you can give to people so they can start using the law of attraction to help manifest for themselves rather than manifesting what they don't want?
So I think that a really kind of easy, short, quick little tool for folks to use is just to remember to ask yourself three quick questions. And if you feel like again, pay attention to your emotional guidance system, and you're thinking about money, you're feeling bad, or you're feeling worried, or you're feeling scared, you kind of come to know that those are, not necessarily the energetic vibrational states that you want to be attracting things into your life from.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can just ask yourself, well, what do I want? And then ask, why do I want it? And how do I want to feel? And it's quick and it's easy, and it's a really kind of great way to turn yourself around a bit when you're feeling like you're kind of stuck in the feeling place for something that you don't want. And it's a great tool. What do I want? Why do I want it? How do I want to feel? And when I started doing this, I again with the sticky notes, but I put one up in the bathroom, one in my office, one in my bedroom mirror, just to get myself in the habit of asking myself, well, not only, well, yeah, what do I want? We're very good at focusing on what we don't want, but what do I want? Why? And how do I want to feel?
That's an
Yeah,
awesome tip. So
yeah.
cool, cool, cool. I think I'm going to get out my sticky notes and write those down. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Heather.
Well, thank
And
you.
yeah, and thanks everyone for listening to The Awakened Goddess. So until next time, bye everyone.